You're on a deserted island. You can bring three things. What you bringing?
I'm bringing a bundle of fireworks. What are the fruits of the Spirit? Tell me about them, man.
Yeah, so the fruits of the Spirit are love, joy, peace, patience, kindness, goodness. The prison that you're in is like a hotel when you know who has the keys. A vulture flies right into the side of my Jeep and wipes my mirror clean off. The person sitting in the passenger seat fell into her lap and died in her lap.
We're back with another episode of the Stephen and Ethan Show. Thank you for watching. This is my co-host, Ethan.
I'm Ethan, everybody. Good to see y'all.
We're back once again. It's been a while, man.
Yeah, it's been a while since we've been on the mic, man. I wanted to start off with a icebreaker question, man. And
Okay.
we want to hear everyone's answers too in the audience, so drop your answers. You're on a deserted island. You can bring three things. What you bringing?
I'm bringing a bundle of fireworks, a lighter, and a 5-gallon jug of water.
What's your reasoning for that?
So I feel like if I had fireworks, I could shoot the fireworks into the woods or something and start a really big fire.
If you want to die on the island?
No. I want people to come find me.
Okay.
And if that's not the case, then I would bring, or I would just use the fireworks to get people to come to the island. Or I'll just bring a boat and leave.
Yeah, boat and gasoline.
Yeah. What about you, man? What are you bringing?
Well, we'll make it seem like I'm stranded on the island. No one's coming to get me. I'm going to bring a lighter, bowls, so I can, get my water cleaned, boiled, everything. And then I guess probably like a hatchet.
Okay.
Cut some wood.
That's pretty good. You going to build a shelter?
Man, if I'm living there for a long time, probably.
That's good, bro. That's very
Yeah,
good.
if I'm there for the long run. But anyways, again, guys, welcome back to the episode. And today we're going to be talking about a few different things right off the bat. We're going to be talking about the fruits of the Spirit.
Let's hear it, Ethan. What are the fruits of the Spirit? Tell me about them, man.
Yeah, so the fruits of the Spirit are love, joy, peace, patience, kindness, goodness, faithfulness, gentleness, and self-control. So for me, when we started addressing that we might talk about this topic, I thought, what fruits do I have that are most evident in my life? And I would say peace is one of them. And then another one I would say is goodness. What about you?
I'd say the fruits that are pretty potent in my life. If I had to pick one, would be peace.
Peace.
I think it's easy to just be at peace. Maybe it's not always easy, but it's overall, I think life can be very peaceful.
Right. Do you think they change periodically depending on the season?
Oh yeah. Yeah, for sure. I mean, one thing that I'm knowing now, as I get older, is that we're at that age where your older family members are starting to pass away. You're having those very pivotal moments in your life where people are getting old, things are changing, not a kid anymore. And I feel like that can be very stressful for a lot of people.
So where do you think the peace you're getting comes from?
The Lord, bro. I can have the worst things going on, but still be excited and joyful throughout the day. I guess I don't like to use the term sad or depressed when I approach my actions in my life, because then it's if I'm depressed, then how can I grow from that? And I just feel like it's just easier to say I'm peaceful, even if I'm not peaceful, because then I think it brings peacefulness. How we've talked about gratitude before and how you can't be sad when you're grateful.
100%. Yeah, you can't be sad or anxious when you're expressing gratitude towards something, like how Apostle Paul says to rejoice always, right?
As far as your peacefulness, where does it come from for you?
Yeah, I would say the peace that I have comes strictly knowing that the Lord is in control. So regardless of what circumstances happen in my life, what horrible things are going on, what valleys I'm facing and falling into, that this was probably part of God's plan, and He's in control of everything. And I showed you this one song the other day, but it says the prison that you're in is like a hotel when you know who has the keys. So that's something that I can find a lot of peace in. Just knowing that it's going to be temporary and God's in control. God has this, and eventually you're going to get to a place that is better.
What about in the moment? So say, and I've been here before too, you have some bad news happen or some just the worst day. Like, for example, a bird flies into your Jeep or something like that.
That was a bad day.
Yeah. Do you want to talk about?
Yeah. So funny enough, man, I've just been going through some things lately, family stuff, but I was driving my Jeep to go show a property. A vulture flies right into the side of my Jeep and wipes my mirror clean off. And that was a pretty tough moment. I can't lie, audience. That was a pretty tough moment. But then I get to this dealership and start telling them what happened when they're fixing my car. And this guy told me this quick story about how an owl flew into the side of their window, busted the window, fell into the person sitting in the passenger seat, fell into her lap and died in her lap, an owl.
Wow.
And then maybe that was God telling me, hey, it's all good. Like, what you went through isn't that bad.
Yeah.
That was even crazier than what I went through.
That's always a good way to look at it, man. I think whenever there's a really crappy moment, you can always say, like, there are people who are in, like, worse situations. Like, I mean, today didn't go so well because that deal that I was supposed to close didn't close. But, like, there are people in foreign countries who don't have the support system to even close a deal, that don't have running water today. Like, that's a pretty intense situation.
100%. So, fruits of the Spirit, what's some of the ones that you think you are lacking right now or struggling with?
Patience.
Why do you say that?
I'd say I lack in the patience department because in my life, usually seeing things kind of go the trajectory I wanted them to go. And I think this is the first time in my life where that's not necessarily the case. And specifically what I'm talking about is like in business, right? When I first started in business, I believed that by where I am today, I would be like way ahead of myself. And I was setting goals for myself that I was not qualified to make. And so I have realized that I have to be patient in this situation. It's like that parable we were talking about where the man had his daughter that was sick and Jesus went to go save his daughter. And the entire time he's walking and the dad's like, come on, my daughter's sick. We got to go save her. We got to go save her. And Jesus is just walking because he's like, I already know, like, it's saved. It's already done. It's taken care of. I think that myself and a lot of people are in that situation right now in their life, whatever it is, where it's like, we're waiting for it to happen. And we're like, Jesus, come on, like, save us in this situation. Like, help me in this situation. Let's make it happen. And the truth is, he's already done what he's going to do, or like what's going to happen is going to happen. And so I think it's important to be patient, but that's something I've been struggling with so hard at this point in time.
Right. I think being present helps a lot with that too. In that parable you were discussing, Jesus heals another lady while he's on the way to heal that man's daughter. So he was present enough in that moment to do that as well. I think that's pretty dope.
Yeah, man, it's hard when you have like the situation or situations that you're thinking of and then like being present in that moment and just accepting like it is the way that it is can be very difficult at times. And I think that when I was a bit younger, like 2 years ago, I was like, I can be patient in this situation, but I was also a lot more present. And I think more recently, my presence has kind of gone away a little bit. So I can say that like for myself, I know that's where I have to go to like really become more patient. But what about you, man? Like, what's your fruit that you're struggling with right now?
Yeah, I'd say I relate to patience and then faithfulness lately. And again, I think it always changes, just so everyone knows, depending on what battles you're facing, what valleys, what mountains you're climbing up. But I'd say right now, both of those. I think one thing that God certainly does is if you pray for patience, he's going to not necessarily give you the patience immediately, but give you opportunities to become more patient. So if you, funny enough, if you pray for patience, maybe God will make you be in 3 hours of traffic, right? Something simple like that. But if you pray for it, God will at least give you the opportunity to have action to put towards that. But patience mostly because we live in a society that has turned patience away. We live in a society that worships convenience. If you go to McDonald's, you expect your burger in 2 minutes. If your Wi-Fi is down, you get upset. Yeah. I think that's why. I think our whole country is facing like an epidemic of not having patience. And it's because we started to worship convenience. But as far as faithfulness, I don't know. I guess just sometimes you get in these certain trials and tribulations in life and you question God, but all you have to do is remember he's been faithful in the past. He's the same God that was the God of Moses, the God of Jacob, Abraham, Isaac,
Job,
the God of Job. Right. Yeah, he was the God of all these people and he was faithful to them. Why won't he be faithful now?
Yeah. Yeah. And it's funny because it's like micro, it doesn't look like it. Like if whatever's going on, it doesn't look like it. But macro, like the whole picture, he's definitely being faithful. Like for myself, with my car accident, for the audience people that don't know, when I was like 19 or 20, I got into a pretty bad car accident and I like broke my hip in the process. And I was so just like, why did this happen to me? And I didn't even take blame for it. I like tried to blame everyone else and the situation before I blamed myself. And I will say that I would not be here filming this podcast today if that had never happened. But at the time I was like, this is stupid and I can't believe it happened to me. But it's probably the best thing that ever did happen to me. And so I'm thankful for it.
Right. So you think God did that to you as a form of what?
Saving. Like, I just think that part of my life that I was in, I was like in a very dark place. And if I hadn't had a come to Jesus moment or like learn the hardest way, I would have never, ever made any changes. I was, and I'm going to be honest, kind of still am the type of person that just has to learn the hardest way. Like I just wanted to be. And if it doesn't happen, it's kind of hard. That's something I've been working with. It's the same thing with patience. Like
stubbornness.
Yeah.
Kind of goes with a lack of patience, right?
I mean, I found this is something I heard a couple years ago, but like patience is just figuring out what to do in the meantime. And so I always try to tell myself that, like, if I'm being impatient about something, I'm like, okay, well, what can I do in the meantime to make this situation harder to be patient in? That's usually helped that. I mean, like everyone's being patient with their cryptos and their investments and that kind of stuff and their future. But we can't be patient because like the Uber driver's 10 minutes away and I'm hungry now.
Right. And today has enough troubles of its own, right?
Oh yeah.
We look at things like we're going to live for 500 years.
Yeah.
Right? Don't we seriously? We look like we're going to live for 500 years, but the reality is today could be it.
Oh,
so
yeah.
you should live as if you have no worries of tomorrow.
Yeah, like if it's not going to matter in 5 years, why would it matter today? Like,
that's the truth.
One way or the other. Whatever happens, whatever situation. Like,
yeah, that deal you lost yesterday, 5 years from now, you won't even remember that deal.
Yeah.
Or funny enough, 5 years from now, maybe that guy's like, hey, I'm actually ready to sell this property now.
Yeah.
Right. But so we talked a lot about the lacking certain fruits. How do you think you increase the ones that you're lacking?
This has just kind of been my philosophy about this kind of stuff, but say like I'm impatient.
Mm-hmm.
So if impatient is 1, then patient would be 10. And it's a spectrum. It's not, I think a lot of times we try to make things binary. Like it's either I'm patient or impatient. It's like, to what extent am I impatient or patient? And then
in certain aspects of life, you could be patient in one area, but not in another.
Yeah. Yeah. So it's like, it's a spectrum. Like I can be 90% patient, but right here, I'm just not patient. So it's like, how can I make myself more patient with this situation? And so I usually like to ask myself, what would I do to stay impatient? And then I would think, well, I'd probably like sit here and think about whatever's going on. I'd worry about it. I would not do my job or do whatever it takes to get my mind off of this thing. I will just focus all of my energy onto this. And so then when you reverse it back, it's like, well, I just don't focus my energy on it. Go do something else productive, live my life, and whatever happens, happens. And that's what I've been able to do with a lot of things for myself. But that's kind of the framework I live by. Do you have how do you fix the lack of these fruits for yourself?
Yeah, I think one thing that's really cool about it, the fruits of the Spirit versus the gifts of the Spirit, the fruits of the Spirit we're promised that we can have access to. So when you're falling short in one, you can pray for that. And then maybe you'll get an opportunity to become more patient, to become more joyful. But over time, in a grand scheme of things, if you just keep praying for it and keep truly pursuing it, it will come. Because that's promised. Those fruits are promised. It's not like you pray for the gift of tongues and God gives you that miraculously, which he does for some people. But you're promised to get the fruits of the Spirit.
So you say like you're promised to get the fruits of the Spirit. I feel like there's plenty of people out there that are a lot older that like haven't truly gotten that like patience or forgiveness or peacefulness. Like, why does that happen?
Well, maybe you truly didn't want it, and maybe you truly haven't handed it over to God. But ultimately, you said like a spectrum, right? So I don't look. Maybe spectrum could be the right terminology for certain aspects of it, but you can never reach like maximum patience.
Yeah.
You can never reach maximum faithfulness or maximum gentleness. There's not like a plateau. You don't go up, 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 and then, okay, I'm cruising now. I made it to the top. You can always become more patient because we're humans. We're not perfect. So it can always increase. Your joy can always increase. I think the ultimate situation, joy is one that's real interesting to me too, because people compare it to happiness, which I kind of want to hear your thoughts on that. Do you think joy and happiness is the same thing? Do you see differences, similarities?
I think joy and happiness are different, but they're kind of the same. The other one I like to tie in with that is pleasure. Like, pleasure is like a dopamine hit. Happiness is a feeling, and joy is a character trait. So, like, you can be a joyful person, but still not be happy. And you can be happy, but not joyful. Like happiness is like a moment. Circumstantial, but it's a lot bigger than pleasure. Like, I think pleasure is like a dopamine. It's just like it's a trigger. Like, I just had a good moment, so I got pleasure out of this. But happiness is like, I'm happy about this entire situation for a day or two or whatever. And then like joy is a character trait. Like, you're just a joyful person, like a jolly person, you know?
Yeah, I think happiness comes and goes and joy stays through whatever endeavors you face.
That's a good way of putting it. I like that.
I would say, you said you had joy, right? That was one of the fruits you said that you had pretty good. That's interesting to me because most men that I talk to about this say joy is one that they struggle with. Do you have any thoughts or advice or how you became so joyful?
I don't know, man. Like, there's always something good to look at everything, bro. Like, everything is just so awesome. Like, there's always like a way that you can find peace and joy and comfort in everything. Like, for example, and I know a lot of people are like this, where like if the weather's bad, they're just having a bad day.
Mm-hmm.
Well, today the weather's not so nice, but we're filming a podcast and it's a good day. And like, we played some chess earlier and like, it's been a good day so far, you know? So why would I choose to say, oh, today sucks? I just think that our brains are naturally wired to find negative in everything. And so when you're constantly looking at negatives, you can't look at the positives. And then that's what makes you not joyful. Because if you're constantly pointing out negatives, like this thing sucks, eventually you're going to start to believe that everything sucks.
I have two thoughts. So the first one will address, when I asked you if you had joy, you said I have joy and peace, almost like they went together. Do you think joy and peace relatively go kind of hand in hand?
That's an interesting question. I do think that joy and peace go together, but I think it's like, I don't know how you would be joyful without being peaceful first.
Right. Kind of like self-control and patience maybe going together.
Yeah. It's just like, you know, if I can be peaceful in this moment, I can then look around at positive things. Whereas if you're constantly looking at negatives, you won't be peaceful because your mind's running on the negativity. And so I think it's hard to do both at the same time. Like, yeah, so what? Like, life sucks. Like, it's going to throw rocks at you. Like, you're guaranteed to have crappier days than today.
Yeah, Jesus says there will be suffering in this world.
So it's like, why not just accept the fact that, all right, yeah, today sucks, but you know what? I'm going to pick myself up by my bootstraps, have a good rest of the day, and then plan out a good day for tomorrow and just keep focusing on that.
Right. Good. I like that. My second question was, I started to think about joy and looking at it from like a grand scheme of things. And again, we live in a country that worships convenience because we have all access to it. And pleasure, you mentioned, we have access to all the pleasure in this country too. So we have children that play video games 24/7 and just seem like miserable, right?
Yeah.
But then you can go to some countries that don't have like the conveniences that we have, and they will be just so happy to be riding a bicycle. But they have way less. what falls under the category of like having things. Like they have way less stuff, materials. Why do you think that they could have more joy?
Just like on a biological level, I think it's psychological level. It's easier to have joy when there's less stimulation because you have less things to force, like to get dopamine from. So the dopamine hits are harder. So like, for example, and I know you've seen these guys before, but like watching a TV show or a game or something and the game cuts like at a very serious moment, they get all mad at the TV, or like right. Some guy scores a touchdown, or even like, I think about this too, this is kind of funny, but like UFC, like some guy like gets bashed in the face and like beat half unconscious, and there's some guy screaming like, "Oh my God, I just hit my parlay." And it's like, yo, that guy just had his entire family and all of America watch him get beat in the face on live television. Like that guy's not having a good night, you know? Right. It's just, we have so much access. And so our dopamine hits are more pungent and more often. If you had less of it, like, I mean, you'd get drunker, you'd enjoy drinking a lot more if you drank less. But since we drink all the time and you can fill that in with video games, TV, whatever it is, it's not as easy to get that same hit from it, because it's like we've been addicted to this and we've been hitting it for years. Whereas, you know, you go to these foreign countries and there's people who have never watched TV before, you know, their fun time is riding a bike or journaling or doing simple things like that. You know, that's how they find more joy, because it's like, this is actually really a real dopamine hit. If that
there's substance behind it, right?
And I think personally, that's where I've gotten a lot of joy. Like, I don't watch TV. I don't really play video games. Like, I don't. I like to read books and journal, talk to my friends, and like play chess. Like, that's kind of what I do besides work.
And jujitsu, right? You do that.
And jujitsu. yeah, I like to do jujitsu too.
Good, man. Good. So I had a question, but it's kind of like, you know, going through one ear out the other right now. But I guess when you look at it, why do you think that do you think people can become aware that less can be more sometimes? And why don't they just choose to do that?
It's hard, bro. It is so hard. Like, I know for myself, I always tell myself never to start a habit that I quit. And I've had plenty of habits that over the years I've stopped doing, but even just like picking them up for a little bit, like I get re-addicted to them. I mean, I had a period of time this year for like a month where I didn't eat any sweets. And then one day, you know, we had family dinner, my grandma comes over and she has a cake and she's like, "Please take a piece of my cake." I'm like, right. "Grandma, I don't want it. I'm good." She's like, "Please take a piece." And so I took a piece, and I slowly but surely, I started like going and getting ice cream every now and then, getting like cookies and stuff. And that's what happened, man.
Dude, it's crazy how you can not even realize you're making somebody stumble.
Yeah.
And then you do something like real minor and then they stumble. I think about that sometimes.
I think James Clear said this in Atomic Habits, but one skipped habit for the day is a mistake. A second skipped habit, like a second day in a row, is the start of a new habit. And the same thing goes the other way. So like one day it's an accident. The second day it's a new habit. And so I think about that because habits usually increase exponentially. And when it's like, yeah, you have this piece of cake, but what's this piece of cake going to cost you in 10 years? It sounds silly, but then it's like,
no, it's the truth.
Yeah.
Most people that go on diets end up, once they get off the diet, they actually gain more weight than they had before.
Really? I didn't know that. I guess that it kind of makes sense.
Isn't that crazy though?
That's how it is. Like in these like Eastern countries, man, it's just like everybody has their fix. A lot of these other countries, like foreign countries, don't have their fix, you know, which actually kind of brings me to a question and a little bit of a topic change. I know you had mentioned to me, you said you were going on a mission trip this year. Where'd you say you were going?
Yeah, I'm going down to El Salvador in about a month and a half. I'll be there for a week. So it's a short-term mission trip. Super excited for it. But yeah, there's a lot we could talk about with that.
Tell me about it. First of all, what made you want to go on a mission trip?
Well, man, I've been wanting to go on one for a few years. And then COVID happened. I actually had a trip planned and then COVID happened. So besides that, I just kind of put it off. But we've talked many times and I've always kind of had more of like a evangelistic heart posture, right? I like spreading the word. I like talking about it. I like even just opportunities to bring it up. I like meeting new people. And also, in a sort of selfish way, I think it can help my faith grow a lot. Just seeing how faithful certain people are, that we talked about the abundant lifestyle we have here. How much more faithful some of these people can be in countries like third world countries is how I'll describe it, but then us who we say has everything that the world has to offer, right? I remember a few months ago when I still had social medias, I saw this video of this family in Jamaica. They were dealing with an incredibly brutal hurricane. Literally, their roof was gone. Their roof was completely gone. What do you think they were doing?
Right.
They weren't praying, they were praising the Lord. They were singing worship songs about how great God is and how faithful he is, how he's a great provider and will never let them down. Talk about faith and love. Do you think that we would do that if our roof got blown off right now? Do you think we'd say, thank you, God, you're such a good God. We love you so much, Lord. Or do you think we'd question God and say, why'd you do this to us? Why would you let this happen, God? And if you look at things in Scripture, going back to the day and all these martyrs, when Saint Stephen, was being martyred, being stoned to death, he asked God to forgive them. He didn't say, God, why are you doing this to me? I was a good man. I don't deserve this. He said, God, please forgive them. They don't know what they're doing. And I think that's just one of the more eye-opening things. And I'm trying to have my faith grow in that, where I can just, love God more regardless of any circumstance and grow to know him better and know what his will is for me. I know I'm going on a tangent, but one man going on the trip said that while he's in the United States, he constantly asks himself, what is God's will for me? I think many people ask that question. But he says every time he goes on these trips and is just truly serving others, he never asks God what his purpose is.
Wow. That is, I'm really excited to kind of hear like what happens when you go on this trip, because I think it'll definitely be very insightful for you, man. A question that I do have is, you mentioned that in a selfish way, you're going to like deepen your faith. Like, why would you call that selfish?
I don't know if it's necessarily selfish, but that's kind of the word that came to my mind. I guess I'll look at it as a mission trip. You look at it as, my goal is to help other people, but that's not necessarily even what the goal is. Sometimes it's to learn and to understand other people better, but also for yourself to grow. And I guess it's ultimately not selfish for me to want to grow, but some people could view it as that, like, oh, he's going on this mission trip strictly for himself, right? Some people can twist things and make it look as such.
Oh, dude, when I was, so just kind of like random side thing, when I was younger, like I always thought when people would like go on mission trips and like post it on Instagram and stuff, I'd be like, they're not even there because they genuinely want to help. They're just there to make their church happy or to like make themselves look good on Instagram.
Yeah,
like,
get these pictures of me. Yeah. Oh, look how good a person I am, kind of thing.
Yeah, which I think honestly can be like a very hard thing to discern even in your own mind sometimes in situations like that, just because that's how like we look at it as a society. So you're almost like, dang, am I doing this for my own selfish purpose? And then you realize you're probably not. Like,
especially if you ask that question.
Yeah.
But if you're asking that question, probably not. But yeah, I think one of the more interesting things about it is that we can't save anybody. Only God can.
Amen.
So I can't go to El Salvador, and if my goal is to save everybody I come across, I'm going to leave really disappointed because I can't save anybody. Only God can.
Amen, man. What, have you ever like been in any other like impoverished countries and seen this kind of?
I've been in a few different third world countries, and actually my parents had a business partner with a man down in the Dominican Republic, and we went and stayed with them in their household, his family's household and everything. And obviously it's not what we're accustomed to here in the United States, but it was pretty insightful and so interesting because I think they have a lot more patience too, at least the people I interacted with in the Dominican Republic. They have so much more patience. I think since we're in a nation that's so business focused and business oriented, and me and you both fall into that category, we're entrepreneurs, that sometimes it can distract you from other things that also matter a lot in life.
Would you say that having that kind of lifestyle would like grow your fruits? I mean, you already kind of mentioned with patience, but like, why do you think that is?
Well, we're really addressing poverty here, and I guess let's just kind of address what poverty is. What would you define poverty as, not is?
I think just like as a like branch term, poverty is lack of something. So like if you're poor in spirit, you lack spirit. I don't know like the actual definition of it, but my guess, if poverty is like specifically money related, then I think that is then that's kind of specifically what it's talking about. But I think it's just being poor in something. But I think when people say the word poverty, they just assume that it's being poor in finances.
Right. Yeah, I think that's kind of the Merriam-Webster definition would probably hit that. Just lack of resources, lack of education, lack of materials, lack of housing, all those, just lack of material stuff that we think of, lack of clothing, all that. But I think you hit it really well when you said like poor in spirit. I think we are all in poverty because we are in a broken world. So we can have poverty, brokenness in our relationship with God. We can have brokenness in our relationship with others, brokenness in our relationship with ourselves, brokenness with our relationship to nature. So we lack, all of us lack. It's just the way we look at poverty. It's kind of sad. We can look at people in these third world countries and say, oh, wow, they don't have a house as nice as me, or they don't have an Xbox. Man, poor people. I feel so bad for them. But that's not always the case. They could actually, as far as poverty goes, according to like scripture, they could be in a better place. Sometimes, and you said less is more, like blessed are the poor in spirit, for the kingdom of heaven is theirs. Maybe sometimes the less you have, it can be better because it allows you to have more of God.
What do you think about? So I guess my thought here is like these people have poor, like impoverished finances. So they don't know how to, like, they don't have money. They're in very impoverished circumstances. And then you mentioned that they're very like rich in spirit.
Can be.
Okay, so that's kind of like what I'm asking is like, can you dive a little bit more into like why wouldn't they be, and how does maybe someone that didn't have it as hard as them affect their psychology or their thoughts on the world?
Well, the science behind it, like the definition we said, is going to be lack of like resources, right? The definition that most people use to define poverty. People that fit that definition, that are in poverty, lack of resources again, would define poverty differently. They would define it as feeling less than human, feeling a sense of shame, a sense of embarrassment. So I think that can be the difference. Just the way we define poverty would be one of the major takeaways, I'd say. Because imagine this, Stephen. You go to El Salvador, me and you, we just take a trip there together, and we're like, okay, we're going to bring all these stuffed animals. We're going to bring a bunch of Xboxes. We're going to bring a bunch of PlayStations, and we're just going to go give them to all these kids. How do you think that would make their parents feel?
Oh, yeah, I would feel pretty
embarrassed, shameful, less than human, like they can't be a provider.
Wow. Bro, isn't it kind of crazy that like the metric for providing for your kids nowadays in America is like if you can buy them a PlayStation and a TV?
Yeah, pretty sad.
That's pretty wild.
Yeah, why isn't it teach them the word of God, take them to do activities, take them camping? I think that looks like a better job of being a parent. I think giving them all this stuff kind of makes you not have to be a parent because you can just distract them once again.
Oh yeah, I think that's the worst. Like, I don't know, man. It's rough to do that. I on the one hand, it's like you don't want your kid to be excommunicated from all the other kids, but on the other hand, it's like, you know, I really don't want my kid to sit around playing video games because I know how rough that was for me as a child, man. But you know, I know we're kind of running a little low on time here, so just to kind of ask you, man, like, what are you like most excited about with this trip?
Yeah, thanks for asking that question. there's a few things that I'm really excited about, but what I'm most excited about is just to get to talk about God more with people that might not know God. And then if they do know God, get to learn their perspectives on it. And ultimately, I think the biggest takeaway, the biggest positive I'll get from this trip, and we'll definitely do a follow-up podcast to address the trip, but would be that it's such an opportunity for me to grow closer to God. Because again, ultimately, I guess I could do it in a way, but being away from this world, being away from your phone, technology for an entire week, man, we don't get that break from distractions very often anymore.
Yeah.
So I think, again, early in the podcast, we talked about being present. Imagine a full week away from technology, just being present with people who genuinely love God or want to know God. I think that can help a lot.
Oh yeah. Yeah, that sounds awesome, man. I really look forward to like having a conversation when you get back from that, man. And as always, bro, I've really enjoyed doing the podcast, bro. It's always a good time.
Yeah, we'll keep it up, man. We'll probably start doing more and more often.
Oh yeah.
And then we'll do a follow up on this one for sure, and we'll see. Maybe my thoughts will change some. We'll see what happens.
Thank you guys for tuning in to another episode. If you liked this episode, go ahead and click the subscribe button. We're going to be uploading all the time. And also, if you are interested in having somebody run advertising for your business, click that link in the description, fill out your information, book a time with me, and we can sit down one-on-one and discuss your business goals. As always, thank you for watching. Have a wonderful day.
See you guys. Thank you.